The sun hung low on the horizon, casting long shadows over the trenches. It was the winter of 1917, and the Great War, as it was called, had been raging for nearly 3 years. The trenches of the Western Front were muddy, cold, and filled with the smell of death. Soldiers lived in constant fear, with each day blending into the next in a haze of gunfire, gas attacks, and loss. Among them was Private Thomas Hall, a young soldier from a small village in England. Thomas had enlisted at the age of 18, full of idealism, dreaming of adventure, and eager to defend his country. Now, standing in the muck of a muddy trench, that youthful innocence had long faded. He was no longer the young man who waved goodbye to his mother and father at the station, his heart full of hope. He had seen too much. He had heard the screams of comrades as they fell to enemy fire, and he had watched as countless soldiers, men just like him, gave their lives for a cause they could hardly understand. Today, the battle was quiet. It was an eerie silence, the calm before another storm. Thomas sat on the cold, damp earth, the weight of his rifle resting against his knee, his eyes scanning the barren landscape ahead. He hadn't received a letter from home in weeks, and it weighed on him. He missed his family, his mother's cooking, his father's laughter, and the simple comforts of life before the war. As the sun sank lower, the silence was broken by the distant sound of artillery fire, followed by the sharp crack of a sniper's rifle. The battle was never truly over, but for a moment Thomas was lost in thought, thinking about the life he might never return to. In his coat pocket, Thomas carried a small, folded piece of paper, a letter he had written but never sent. It was addressed to his younger sister, Emily. He had written it weeks ago, but he couldn't bring himself to send it. The words felt too final, as if by sending it, he would be acknowledging the possibility that he might never return. But today, for some reason, the weight of that thought seemed bearable. He unfolded the letter and began to read it one last time. "Dear Emily, I hope this letter finds you well. I've lost track of the days here in the trenches, but I think of you and Mom and Dad every single one of them. The weather here is dreadful, and the food is hardly worth mentioning, but I've made it through so far. The men here are good, brave, kind-hearted souls who share everything, even if it's only a scrap of bread. I can't say much, as the letters are censored, but I want you to know that no matter what happens, I'm proud to be serving. I'll keep my head down and stay safe, and I'll try to come home to you soon. If I don't make it back, remember this. You were always my greatest treasure, and I carried you with me in every step. Yours forever, Thomas." He sighed as he refolded the letter and placed it back in his pocket. The weight of it seemed unbearable now. He had never thought of death until now, never imagined what it might be like. But the thought lingered, gnawing at him. He looked up at the sky, the clouds rolling in as the storm approached. The war would never stop. It would continue to claim lives, to tear apart families, to take away the future. Suddenly, the stillness shattered. The ground shook as artillery shells exploded nearby. The trench erupted into chaos as soldiers scrambled to their posts. The air was thick with smoke, the sound of shouting and gunfire deafening. Thomas grabbed his rifle and rushed toward the front, his heart pounding in his chest. As he emerged from the trench and charged toward the enemy lines, a sharp pain suddenly shot through his chest. He stumbled, his vision blurring, and fell to his knees in the mud. His fingers reached for his coat pocket, pulling out the letter, his sister's name still written on it. As the world around him began to fade, he held the letter close, knowing that in his last moments, he had given everything for a cause that seemed so far away from home. And then, in the quiet of the battlefield, where nothing but the wind could be heard, Private Thomas Hall's journey ended. In the face of death, we often find the things that truly matter. The love we hold for others, the memories of home, and the sacrifices made for a future that may never come. Private Hall's letter, left behind on the battlefield, is a reminder that even in the darkest moments, Humanity's enduring light is in the connections we make and the love we give.